Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bum. You are watching this on Wednesday morning. Pre-recorded episode, very special episode. Today is what do we call this, Jack? Space-A-Palooza or something like that?
I think that's what we settled on. Yeah.
I think that's a very clever name that we came up with ourselves. That's not associated with any musical festival whatsoever. Totally our own. We patented it, Space-A-Palooza.
Yes.
We are welcomed by a semi-astronaut, basically. Landon, how would you introduce yourself with your role in NASA, in that corporation that is supposedly exists?
Hello, everyone. So my name is Landon. I am your resident space nerd for today. I am a student at Purdue right now with Jack, and I'm working for NASA right now, writing flight trajectory software for the flight dynamics office right now.
So you're tracking rockets.
I'm tracking rockets. I'm tracking the rocket's path, where it's going, how it's landing, if it aborts, and any space debris.
Okay.
I work right now in the Apollo mission control room. If you've ever been to Texas and you've seen it, I work in the building where they landed the rocket on the moon.
Supposedly.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. So I guess we'll get right into it. How often are rockets go into space? That's a dumb question, but how often?
Like a few times every few months. It's really ramped up a lot since private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin started launching. But NASA, SpaceX, Blue Origin, they're all launching rockets 1 or 2 times a month. Up in the ISS, you have to restock all the astronauts with food. So we send cargo missions about every 3 months up to the ISS. Plus, SpaceX is setting up a whole bunch of satellites for communication. Blue Origin is doing all of their privatized space flights. So everyone's got their own thing right now, and everyone's launching. And that's just the US companies.
Yeah.
A whole lot of rockets all around the world launching.
That opened up. That made me realize how many questions I actually had, just like that answer right there. So I'm kind of worried about I don't know where I'm going to go. Jack, you're welcome to chime in at any point. But again, I'm like the local nerd here, or like idiot who wants to be a nerd. Are SpaceX and NASA like big rivals?
No, they actually do a ton of work together. Actually, no one's really a rival in the space industry.
There should be.
Cool.
There should be rivals.
Yeah, there's competition.
The USSR.
Wrong, but everyone helped. Actually, no. Well, back then, yes.
Back then, I was gonna say, yeah.
Now we have a great relationship with Russia in space. Barring aside all the geopolitical aspects of everything, Russia and the US get along very, very well when it comes to space. And in the private sector, there's a whole bunch of like joint projects that NASA and SpaceX are working on, or NASA and Sierra Space work on. So everyone's kind of helping out everyone. We all have one collective goal to move forward in space. Some private companies have other ideas about which direction they want to go with privatization or using satellites and everything. But the big overarching goal is everyone's pretty much in it together, which is one of the few fields where you see that nowadays.
I love that. That's a good message. We're all working together to take over the universe. I love it.
Exactly. Just trying to learn about it.
So there's people in ISS? So how long are they up there for? Like, they live there?
Yeah. So for the past few years, like decades, there has never not been a US astronaut on the ISS. ISS is mainly shared between Russia, the ESA, which is European Space Agency, JAXA, which is the Japanese Space Agency, and NASA. So those 4 groups spend a lot of time up there conducting a whole lot of science missions. So there's always an astronaut up there for doing science or for maintaining and upkeeping the ISS. And stints in the ISS can last as little as 3 months, or it can go well over 1 whole year. I think 5 to 8 years ago, Scott Kelly, one of the most famous astronauts, he was in space for over a year, and they mapped the effects that zero-G or weightlessness had on him versus his twin brother, who was on the ground, and pretty crazy differences.
Yeah. What were the differences? Do you know?
Oh man, so for one, your muscle loss Muscles need gravity, right? Your legs constantly need gravity to be able to have your muscles upkeep. So when you don't have those muscles constantly going up in space, you can see your muscle mass, like your bone density and muscle density, decrease a lot over time. There's also really cool thing. My grandfather is cardiologist, so he focuses on the heart a lot and a lot of cells. And one interesting talk that I had about him was with the Kelly twin experiment, where they analyzed the telomeres, which if you look at the end of your DNA, the end of your cells, they have these little caps on them, which are called telomeres. And those pretty much dictate the lifespan of each of your DNA cells. And when those deteriorate, those cells die, and that's how you pretty much as a person end up passing away. And what they noticed in space is that these little end caps on the ends of everything, they would stay a whole lot longer than they would down on Earth.
Hold up. So you're
longer.
saying we live longer in space?
Not necessarily in that aspect.
You just said that. You just said that.
There's a lot of other things that could end up killing you, like the weightlessness on your density of your bones, density of your muscles, has adverse effects on your heart. All the radiation up in space. On the ISS, it's super low, relatively speaking, to the Earth's atmosphere. So the ISS is protected a lot by the magnetic field on Earth, which means that the radiation waves from the sun and from high energy particles out in space, those will not actually hurt or pose too much of a threat to astronauts on the ISS. But when you start venturing out further, like to Mars, which we're trying to get to in the next decade, those pose a serious threat to the astronauts, where if you have a round trip to Mars and back, you're pretty much, you're upping your chance of getting cancer by like tenfold.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that can kill you up in space, and a lot of things that, just happen different with the human body. So that's a huge part of research right now, especially in manned spaceflight, is trying to figure out how the human body reacts up in space, and then how we can better equip astronauts and just everyday people to start traveling in space more and more.
So given what you know about space, because you know way more than us, would you rather live comfortably here or live comfortably there? Like if everything...
I'm an astronaut 100% of the way. Yeah, I'd be willing to do that round trip to Mars right now.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, I think exploration, physical exploration in the broadest sense is one of the main reasons why we're here on this Earth or here in this universe, is just to learn about where we come from, learn about the world around us, and what better way to do that than actually venturing out there into what makes up literally everything. So yeah, I definitely would. What about you?
I'm jury's still out on space for me.
Yeah.
You almost roped me in. Yeah.
Yeah, we have this argument on the show.
Open it up.
Our disagreement.
Late on me, Jack.
Yeah, so Wyatt once posed this hypothetical. I think we were talking about like the anniversary of Richard Branson going into space. And he posed the hypothetical, would you rather go to space or own a cool hot tub, like a really cool hot tub?
Really cool. It's really cool.
Like lights and jets and everything.
Yeah, like all the shenanigans, all the gadgets, all the shindigs. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, and he falls squarely on the side of hot tub, and I am.
Yeah. It's space for one day. We got
okay. So
one day.
That begs the question: what is a space person?
You're going up, circling around. I don't know what you do, and you're not leaving the ship. You're not going like spacewalking or anything. You're in the ship. You're up there, and you come back down, like those rich people did last year, or like the last couple of years. What do you think?
Yeah. All right. So everyone spends money to go on a vacation, right? You spend 3 days to go to Portugal, or you take a cruise all the way somewhere to Europe, right? But people spend a lot of money, a lot of their hard-earned time to go and see a part of the world for only a small fraction of their life. And they come back, and that's really what, makes the experiences is through travel. So I think I'd definitely go on the space side. I feel like that's gotta be the greatest vacation of them all, is being able to go around for a whole day, and just see everything. I think you get like 14 or something sunrise and sunsets. You get a sunrise and then sunset every 45 minutes. if you're orbiting the ISS. So I don't know, I think that'd be pretty beautiful.
Counterpoint though, like all
Yes.
your boys that you're hanging out with, what you just be like,
Alright.
yeah, I went to space. Here are some sick pictures, and then like you can't share with it. No one's gonna understand. Yeah, I agree, it'd be very cool, but no one's gonna
Right.
understand how cool it is except for you. In a hot tub, I can hang out with the boys anytime I want and be like, hey boys, come chill in my hot tub.
That's
Have,
true.
have
Nothing
a
beats
couple cold
friendship.
ones. Yeah, it's a very
Yeah,
I would argue it's
Alright.
a selfish thing to go to space. But that's just me.
Whoa, whoa.
Can see where you're coming from with that. Yeah, you can share the hot tub with the boys.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right,
Hot tub
the
with the
thing
boys.
is, if you ever decide to move, is your hot tub coming with you? I mean,
Yeah.
all right, sorry,
It's
we should get on the topic of
That
space.
expensive, gotta be
Let's-
mobile.
No, this is that Jack. This was my topic number one: space versus hot
Oh.
tub. I can literally show it to you. It says NASA questions number one: space versus hot tub. This is
Yeah,
this is my
I have a
biggest
feeling
debate.
I know how the future astronaut's going to answer. So
I was just gonna say here. This could be case. This could be point A, like the project number one. So you go to space, Landon. You let me know how it is, and I'll
will.
save up money and I'll buy a super sick hot tub. We'll see who's happier.
When you got to
5 years from now.
Oh, that
Yeah,
changes things. I thought I was getting that hot tub for free.
Well, when I either win the lottery or this video goes crazy viral and we make enough money to get the super sick hot tub, then we'll see. We'll compare. We'll talk in 5 years when you're in space and I'm in my tub, and we'll see who's happier.
I'll write a book. I'll write a book and get enough money to get that hot tub later.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, wait. Now, serious question.
Yeah.
All the people up there in space who are working in the ISS, like just doing their thing, what's their goal? Do they all have like overall, like, is the goal to eventually like colonize? Are they working towards like colonizing space, or are they just working like seeing what they discover?
So that's definitely a loaded question. Like I was saying earlier, all the private companies have their own ideas and own goals. Looking specifically at NASA right now, in the current moment of like live flying astronauts right now, we have a group of astronauts on the ISS. Astronauts are being trained to go to the ISS, and those are mainly made up of researchers and educators. And those people are going up to the ISS to conduct a whole bunch of various experiments. It could be like biological, they could be stuff about nature, how physics works up in space, but pretty much you name it, we're trying to test for that up on the ISS. The ISS is the world's most robust research lab. So we're doing a lot of science on the ISS, but NASA's moving forward, our current goal, which is what I'm working on right now, is to get back to the moon to stay. In the 50s, we landed on the moon just to beat the Russians. And then we came back, we got some samples, put some rovers on there, and it was great. But now we're going back to the moon to live there permanently. We're making habitats, we're colonizing it, and it's going to be the future of the world.
All right, we buried the lead a little bit. The moon landing.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, I'll go under the assumption that it happened.
Okay.
Why haven't we been back? That's the biggest thing, is like, people are like, all right, we went to the moon in like the 50s, dude. Like, how have we not gone back? Why have we not gone back?
So there hasn't been support or funding from Congress or for people. When you look at like the chart of like national funding, the space program gets very little compared to the military.
That's true, really?
Yeah.
I feel like I saw numbers where like NASA gets a shit ton of money. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we get like billions of dollars, but looking at at a holistic approach, NASA only gets like a few percentage points of the gross like profit.
Interesting.
So we don't have a lot of money to do anything, and there hasn't really been very many deliverables for going back to the moon back in the day. That's why we started doing the ISS, because the ISS provides a return of investment, I guess you could say, to the American people, where we're conducting all this science. We're producing results. The squirt gun, actually, like the super soaker, that got invented by a NASA astronaut. There's like probably a few other things I could rattle. I think Velcro got invented too.
Hell yeah.
But like, there's always so many things going up there getting invented, or research findings that are improving your day-to-day life. Like if you have your phone on you right now, your phone works because of GPS satellites. And that's how the internet works. If we didn't have those satellites up there, then we wouldn't even be able to have this conversation right now. So a lot of what happens in the space program is dictated by return of investment.
Okay.
Whether that be like actual monetary profit if you're a private company, or a return for taxpayer money if you're a NASA. So in the past, there hasn't really been that much of a push to go back to the moon until now. Now we have the technology, we have more findings. We've just discovered recently that there is water on the moon, and water is the most important thing you can find in space. You can drink it, right? You keep your astronauts alive. You can break it down into hydrogen and oxygen, turn it into rocket fuel. And finding this ice on the moon means we can stay there. It'd be easier to stay there. We can use the moon as a gas station to get to Mars. If we take and harvest the water on the moon, we can use it as a gas station to send us on to Mars. And there's more of a push globally and inside the US to return to the moon this time, which is why we have the Artemis program.
Why was the flag waving if there's no wind on the moon?
Oh man, I love this one. Yeah. So if you're able to pull up an image of the flag planted on the moon,
Do it right
you'll
now.
see that there is a bar running along the top of the flag to keep it rectangular looking. And then so that's where like the square, how you can see the entire part of the flag.
I mean, but
then
that thing's waving.
Yeah, it's waving. Okay, yeah. So the
Why?
conservation of momentum, looking at Newton's laws, right? As soon as the astronaut picks it up and moves it, right, it's going to create a disturbance in the flag, causing it to move. And because there's no atmosphere on the moon, there's no like degenerating forces or anything, that flag is going to continue to keep waving because of how the astronaut's moving. If you ever pick up a like a bed sheet and move it, right, you'll see that it starts waving a little. And that's relatively the same principle where you're picking it up, creating a disturbance. And because there's no, like very few friction forces on the moon, the flag's going to continue to wave and make it appear like it's waving in air, but it's really just physics at play.
Okay. All right. I want to say I hate this episode because I see the look on Jack's face. This is Jack's favorite thing that's ever happened, is seeing just me being proven wrong over and over again. This is Jack's happy place. I'm looking up.
I got some cool misconceptions people have about space. Yeah, I've got a big, 2 foot by 3 foot picture in my office that I walk by every day, and it's of the flag planted into the moon. And I think about that question a lot.
Good. I think about it a lot too. I think about it every night. Every night.
Burying the hatchet.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm fully convinced, but it made a lot of sense. I have to unpack what he said. I'll study the tape later.
I think the thing that's surprising to me, based on how much of a skeptic Wyatt is, he's in the same fraternity that Neil Armstrong was in. He's in
Fido, baby.
Oh, Fido, very nice.
Yeah.
I know he's the greatest con man in the world.
Assume, I'd assume. I don't know why you assume your most famous alum is just a liar.
I'll say this. Yeah. Okay, I believe you. Yeah, he went to the moon. I'll concede that. But wouldn't it be even cooler if he was able to convince the entire world that he did? That's almost cooler than actually going to the moon.
That would be probably crazy, the most incredible feat.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I think that would be nuts. Yeah. That's just my thoughts there.
But yeah, there's so many things we can debunk on the moon landing.
Those are my two biggest ones. I want to talk.
Last talking point: the flag on the moon. It's just because of physics. It's simple, Newtonian physics that are at play, which is why you see the flag waving.
Fair. It's just a lot easier to just throw out those criticisms and not looking into it at all. Like just, but why is it moving? Because there's no wind on the moon. Right. And then no one's.
I do have a quick question.
It's helped clear it up.
What was that, Jack?
I've got a quick question. What do you think of the conspiracy that flat earthers are lying about actually believing that the earth is flat so they can go to space for free to get proven wrong?
Oh man, I've never heard of that yet, which is incredible because that's something we talk about a lot in the NASA community. Is like the best way probably to show a flat earther is to take them up and show them the curvature of the earth, which it has yet to happen. There actually has been one flat earther who tried to build his own rocket to go up and see if they're like to see either above the giant ice wall or the curvature of the world. But he actually ended up dying in one of his own tests
Damn.
because he didn't engineer it right.
Dying doing what he loves. I can
There you
respect
go.
it.
Yeah, that's respectable. Yeah.
NASA, quite like you in that environment, studying it every single day. Does it get like, I don't know what the right word for, like intimidating or like almost scary? Like, cause you just realize how small you are and insignificant you are every day. Like you're just reminding yourself about how like small of an
Yeah.
existence you have.
I think about that a lot, yes. But I think the word I'd probably use for it is freeing, right? Because you're so like the universe is so large and you are just, some small speck on this cosmic scale that it kind of, lets you free from anything, all the stresses in your life, all the need to live up to something. None of it really matters.
Nothing matters.
Yeah, the
Hell
whole
yeah.
purpose in your life is that you went out and did what you loved and had no regrets doing it, right? So the fact that none of it all matters is pretty much just like a get out of jail free card. Do whatever you love. Go love whoever you want, and that's really what it's all about. So it's not scary so much as freeing.
I think you just summed up the entire movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I
think
yet
you
to
just
watch it. I hear it is
That's
one
the
of
movie.
movies.
You just summed it up. You just
It's
said
my
the whole
favorite
movie
movie of
basically.
the year so far.
It's incredible. Yeah, I've got one of my cousins is a Emmy award-winning filmographer, which is he's incredible. But he said that it was his favorite movie he's seen in like a decade. So I guess that's on the top of my movie list right now.
So good. I mean, well, I think you'll resonate very well with it, considering what you just said. What could so we're doing all this research up in space all the time. What could be like the craziest thing we discover like tomorrow? Like that something comes up and like, whoa, this opens so many doors. Like that, like what could be the craziest discovery that could realistically happen?
I gotta throw out the aliens, especially with James Webb Space Telescope now. There becomes an increasing chance every day that we're going to end up finding life or some, a clue of life on another exoplanet or within our own solar system. And I think there's a chance that within our lifetime, we will get confirmation that there is life somewhere out there in the universe, maybe could be even closer to home than we thought. But aside from the aliens, NASA actually is partnering with another local private company to work on, if you've ever seen like Star Trek or something, like warp drives, So it's a way that you can use and manipulate gravity to actually travel faster than the speed of light. And I went to a research talk with a few people at NASA the other day to learn about it. And it absolutely just blew my mind. We're actively working on it. We know relatively what it would look like. We've been able to, create small tests in labs. And, that's something we're relatively on the verge of, not anytime tomorrow, but, that's in the crosshair, So just some real sci-fi stuff.
Yeah. All right, we'll stick on aliens for a second. All that stuff with like UFOs, like pictures were like they basically confirmed didn't like NASA confirm UFOs and like during the middle of COVID. So they just like dropped that so no one would notice. I noticed. That was crazy. They were like, yeah, there's UFOs.
I was all over it.
We don't know what these things are. By the way, now deal with your disease. Like that's literally what they did. It was crazy.
I've been waiting for them to release those naval footage tapes. So one of the real cool things about Purdue is that it is one of the best aerospace schools in the world. And one of their really good programs is autonomy. And there's a few professors in the autonomy, which is like drones and UAVs. And I've talked to a few and I've heard a few lectures from them about this exact thing, actually. And I've spoken to a lot of people at NASA about it. So UFO is just unidentified flying object. They have like a few other acronyms for what they are, but they're just unidentified, which means there's a ton of things that could be unidentified, none of which necessarily mean aliens. And pretty much in every single one of those videos that you'll see from the Navy or that are like self-shot by people in the middle of the night, a majority of those are pretty much all of them are just from drones, like recreational drone vehicles. If you like pulled up a plot over time of the amount of UFO sightings and the increase in commercial drone usage throughout the world, you'll see that as commercial drones keep increase in popularity, which is like recently within this past like 10, 20 years, there's a huge increase in the amount of UFO sightings that people see. So a lot of it's really just them mistaking drones that people see for UFOs or alien UFOs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aliens, if we
Yeah.
do, what are the odds they're smarter than us? Like 100%?
If we're looking, okay. Have you ever heard? We'll slice this up a little bit.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Drake equation?
The what?
The Drake equation. Okay, so that's something real cool. Anyone who's watching should write down and look up after this meeting.
Yeah, you guys have homework.
But-
If you're listening, you have
Oh, yeah.
homework.
No, it's real cool homework. Yeah. So the Drake equation was made, I think, something like 80 to 100 years ago by this professor. His last name was Drake. Don't quote me on his first name. But basically,
We won't. We don't fact check anything on this show.
Okay. But yeah, so basically he created this equation that gave you the percentage chance or the ratio that there are intelligent species out there. So it goes by like, basically it's mathematically only things that we can observe, which are like, do we see like how many planets there are per solar system, which is on average 2, and like how many stars there are out there in the universe, how many planets exist in the habitable zone, how many of those planets have atmospheres that we could live on. And then it goes into how many civilizations could there be. Like there's been thousands of civilizations that have came and went in the scope of the Earth, right? So you have to factor that in. If you're looking at aliens on another planet, you have to understand intelligently if they are able to create radio signals, because that's the best way for information to travel throughout the universe, is the creation of radio waves. And if you're a smart species, you should be able to create those radio waves on yourself. And it's like over 10 different variables in this equation that when you multiply everything out, it gives you a 1.4 ratio that there is intelligent life that's like smarter than us or equal to us out there in the universe, which means it's like a 40% chance that there's, or 0.4 of us out there. That's mathematically. If you really just think about it, like you've heard there's more universe, so there's more galaxies and grains of sand out there, and there's a whole multiverse theory with string theory and everything. And if you just look at the sheer size of the numbers out there, there is literally no way that there's no way that there isn't intelligent life out there, right? You can get these at-home kits where you can create life just with like elements, create like actual living things. And it's just life is just a beautiful, lottery thing where we ended up winning it because the right things happened at the right time. So it's a super small chance that it all happened. We're blessed to be here. But if you take that super small chance and you multiply it out by like the quadrillions to the quadrillions of planets out there, there's got to be life somewhere out there.
Yeah. What's the thought on the you said multiverse there? That was a trigger word. What's the likelihood of, or like what would that look like in its most realistic setting? What would that look like?
Okay. So it's mathematically been proven. Like we obviously haven't scientifically like went to the multiverse. Like we haven't like taken a plane there yet. But mathematically, this is all like crazy abstract math. But mathematically, we have proven that there are enough dimensions to create a multiverse.
I don't know. So you're gonna have to unpack that because it sounds mind blowing, but I don't know what it means.
So I don't know. I'm obviously not an expert in this.
That's fair. Yeah, you're more than us. More than us.
Yeah, but basically, the way the universe folds in on itself is that we live in a 3D space. We perceive in 2 dimensions, but there are actually the world, the universe, everything sits comfortably, I think, at 12 dimensions, 11 or 12 dimensions, right? So you've like seen the videos of like the 4D square where it's all like turning inside itself. And that's like no one can actually like process that. Mm-hmm. So move that up, 8 more degrees, and that's apparently mathematically where the world comfortably sits at. And within that, you can go super, super small into the quantum realm. And when I say quantum, quantum just means super small.
I've seen Ant-Man. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. When you go that small, you could reach, universes where something is so small inside you, or you can expand further out than our entire universe, and we are just some small bubble in this multiverse of other bubbles that are each their own universes, where they are too far away to ever, collide with each other. But they're like everything happens, differently there, which then you see like the sci-fi movies that if there's an infinite number of multiverses out there, then there's got to be one where everything's the same except your shirt's backwards.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the idea of it, is that like mathematically everything is folded in a certain way. And there could be bubbles of universe that are not touching with yours, but somewhere else.
That's fucking
It's
insane, dude.
mind blowing.
Like I've said that enough, and I've pondered that idea a bunch, but like even no matter how many times I say it, I can't like get even close to wrapping my brain around it. Like it just hurts to think about.
It's it's like every time you're working and you learn about this stuff, it's a pleasure. It's almost like you're on a trip the whole time.
Yeah,
about these crazy abstract things. It's
I can't imagine. I can't imagine like working on it all day, like almost like doing schoolwork about this kind of stuff, and then taking a step back, like, oh, this is real. Like I'm not like working on a problem that's non-existent. Like this is like legit. This is what's happening right now. That's crazy.
Yeah, I get that moment like every so often at work. I'll be like grinding in my desk, like head buried in the computer working on code, and then like I'll take a walk, and then it hit me like I'm like all this work, it's putting people on the moon again. Yeah, so I definitely get that feeling a lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it all hits you at once.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, go for it, Jack.
So you touched on Ant-Man for a second. Are there any space or sci-fi movies that you've seen where you're like, this got it like really, really right? Or any that you've seen where you're like, this makes absolutely no sense. This is just completely wrong.
Oh man. So obviously I gotta throw out Interstellar. A lot of people have beef with that movie. A lot of people love that movie. That was like the movie that got me into space. My astronomy professor showed me that, and that like slingshotted me into loving space. But for that movie, they actually hired astrophysicist Kip Thorne, who's one of the most well-known, recognizable astrophysicists out there. And he helped dictate the movie and say everything like this can happen 100% for sure, or it is not possible. So they did their science behind Interstellar and also The Martian. So those two are really good written together movies. And then I'd say probably one that doesn't get it right is Spaceballs.
They got a lot of things wrong.
Still one of my favorite movies though.
I like that. Okay, a few more things I have, smaller things. That picture, the James Webb thing.
Yes.
Why should I care about it?
Oh man, which image do you want to talk about? It's crazy. There's one where you can see.
I didn't know there were multiple.
Yeah, there's the WASP, not WASP. It was an image of an exoplanet too. There's I think they released 6 images so far. They'll probably release some more. If we were to pull up the one where you see all the gravitational lensing, first of all, most of these images were taken by Hubble years prior. And if you compare the James Webb images to the Hubble images, you'll see just how much crisper everything is, how much more precise everything on James Webb is. So looking at it like broadwise, if we're looking at the gravitational lensing image, it's absolutely beautiful. You have some big high mass stars and galaxies up in the foreground of the image. And in the background, you have just the sea of white specks, which are their galaxies and their other stars. And then you see some smudges on the screen where it's like one star is bent. It's like, it looks like a boomerang coming around one of the main central stars. And that comes from the high mass of the stars in the foreground actually bending the light from the stars in the background. And it's a beautiful image that displays Albert Einstein, one of his like leading principles of relativity. So that just in and of itself is beautiful. But if we're looking like in comparison to Hubble, right? James Webb is the first infrared satellite, infrared camera, telescope we have out there, which means it can see in longer wavelengths that have traveled further, and it can see them more intensely than Hubble ever could. So James Webb now can see the oldest stars. Like recently, I think just this past week, it clocked the oldest known object we've ever seen in space, which gives us incredible new information about how everything started, how the Big Bang occurred, what everything was like 400 million years after the Big Bang. And the precision that it can go to when compared to Hubble, you can get so much more information. I'm doing some astronomy research back at school, and looking through all the Hubble and Spitzer images. Just by the light that we can see, I can tell you exactly what elements are coming from certain stars, what that means for the whole solar system of that star, if there's life on certain planets inside that solar system. And that's just coming from like specks of light that we're seeing trillions and quadrillions of like light years away or something, or miles away. And with that extra precision, we can get so much more data and so much more information extracted clearly from James Webb Space Telescope. So just looking for the hunt for like aliens, the hunt for life, we're using the James Webb Space Telescope to look at exoplanets and analyze their atmosphere to a degree that we've never been able to do before. And that's why it's an even greater chance that we might discover something, within the next day.
No, what's your goal with all this? Like personally, like what gets you up to like keep working on this stuff? Where are you going? Yeah.
Undying passion right now is using astrodynamics to map the orbits of manned spacecraft or natural bodies. So one of my favorite things learning about as a kid, and what I hope to maybe apply to, if you've ever heard about Planet X, it's the 10th planet in our solar system. When you look at our solar system, it's got the sun and all 9 planets and Pluto.
Yeah, can we talk about Pluto? No, pause. I want to talk about Pluto real quick.
Okay.
Y'all did Pluto so dirty. You did Pluto
they went back and
so
forth
dirty
a few times. I know. It's just what the astronomy field classifies for something being a planet. What its orbit is, like how elliptical the orbit is.
It's semantics. It's all semantics.
Yeah, it's all just based on like the orbit and the mass and the composition of whatever rock we're looking at. And sometimes, the classification changes. So that's why Pluto's gone back and forth a few times.
All right, sorry, you can go back to your Planet X talk. I was interested. I just had to get that out there. I'm still mad.
Is currently not a planet, but that's always subject to change, I guess. But yeah, so I love analyzing orbits, and we discovered Planet X, our 10th planet in the solar system, because so all the planets orbit just like Planet X has some crazy elliptical orbit going like this. And because we mapped the orbits of all the bodies, all 9 planets and all these asteroids in our own solar system, we added everything up and something didn't check out. There was some other mass affecting how everything moved. And from that, we were able to determine an orbit of Planet X. So I have absolutely loved it. And that's relatively what I want to start doing. If I'm going into the astronomy field, I want to be able to use astrodynamics and orbit analysis to, discover new things about distant worlds. And if I'm staying in the manned spaceflight program, then sure as hell bet I'm going to use it to get people to Mars.
Hell yeah. If you end up like breaking through and like being like the leader on all this stuff, like space travel stuff, can Jack and I get a place on this spaceship?
Yeah. And I'll also be buying a hot tub up there. So,
I'll say this. If you can find a way to get me a cool ass hot tub on Mars, I'm in tomorrow. Like, let's go.
Sure.
That's the best of both worlds. Those are
an engineering nightmare, but if you pay enough money, I bet someone could do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's not for me to figure out. It's just for me to enjoy. I'll be there. I will be there. I'll vlog the whole thing. We'll get heli views. It'll be sweet. Yeah. First hot tub in space.
It'd be incredible. Yeah.
Jack, do you have any more questions before I have I guess I have 2 more. Jack, anything?
Let's keep going with your questions.
Okay. Elon, is he good or bad for space travel?
He's good. Anyone who is ambitious and aggressive enough to push people forward like this, this is like the reason why we're making such leaps in the space field, right? Before Elon Musk, before, Bezos, it was just NASA out there pushing forward. You would go back to the USSR, we go back to the space race, right? We got to the moon, we created all these things because, right, we were pushing forward faster than we ever could have against the Russians. And now where NASA and everyone else is competing to move forward with everyone else in the space industry. So all this, so these added competitors help everyone to move forward quicker and, more effectively. And Elon Musk is one of the, he's a leading guy out there. So yeah, I think what he's doing is real good. And there's a lot of stuff NASA can't do because we're using taxpayer money. We can't be as risky with certain things that we do, or as, maybe robust as what Elon can do.
Yeah.
So that's why, he put his, speedster up, his Tesla Roadster up in space, going to orbit around Mars, right? We could never do that with taxpayer money, but he was able to do that by using the Falcon Heavy, which is, at the time, it was, the strongest and, highest thrust to weight ratio, or no, just the highest thrust rocket like ever. So the whole private industry is really just making leaps and bounds for what, commercial travel will look like and what, astronaut travel will look like in the very near future. So definitely good.
This is probably completely outside of your expertise, but I just want to get your
Good.
thoughts on it. I feel like you're a
Yeah.
smart man. Simulation theory. What are your thoughts on it?
Lay it on me. What is simulation theory?
So basically, it's the idea that we are in a simulation right now. We are all simulations of a future. The way I see it, the way it's been described to me, and the way it made the most sense to me is like, basically 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the most complex like game we had was like Tetris and all that stuff. And now we have VR where we can put on a headset and go to a different area, like terrain and environment, and create that. Who's to say 100 years from now, we can't create a system, a game system, a simulation system that can create living and functional beings like us right now? Who's to say that's not true?
It's definitely possible. And I've definitely heard of that before. I feel like there were some reasons, if I did some debunking before that, there's a reason why it might not hold anymore.
Yeah, I saw something. Neil deGrasse Tyson went out a full rant about it, and it made sense why it's not true, and I can't remember why. But I'm always interested by that. It always trips me out.
It's amazing. I mean, because we're coming up. If you've seen Ready Player One, that's one of my favorite movies. Is just the immersion you can have with VR. And recently, within the past half of a decade, we've made incredible leaps in VR. We've got the treadmills. We've got incredible haptics. The frame rates in the goggles, it's incredible what's coming out of it. So yeah, I think in the very near future, we'll get some crazy immersion stuff in the world of VR, which won't be so far that it's anywhere near dangerous, but it'll be a lot of fun for us. So we're definitely going to be getting that generation that gets to enjoy it.
Yeah, the part that trips me out about it is this idea that it's an endless loop. Once it starts, so once the first generation creates that simulation that's that advanced, then that simulation will eventually advance to the point where they create simulations, and then it'll
keeps on going.
So maybe we're just not at the point, or maybe we're one of those simulations that haven't advanced yet. Yeah, we're somewhere in the middle. Who knows?
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy to think about.
Nuts.
Yeah, anything's possible, man. That's those are some of the most fun things to think about in space, is because it's just so vast and there's so many unknowns right now. You can create these wild theories that still that could hold, that could be true, and we don't know. But that's one of my favorite things to do, is just think about all the crazy stuff that actually could be true, and we just don't know.
Yeah. Jack, I don't think I have any more questions. Do you?
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you think is just really cool and you want to talk about? Because I mean, we're asking probably the basic questions here. Space.
Oh man, no, I love talking about other people's questions about space, and debunking wild conspiracy theories.
They're not wild. They're
some, but yeah, I mean, there's some crazy things like the moon is hollow out there. There's some giant ice wall for the flat Earth. But I have one message to send to anyone, is that you can debunk pretty much any conspiracy theory on your own if you keep enough open-mindedness and just do enough digging and just, you don't need to be like an expert working for NASA. You don't have to be some crazy savant to understand any of this. Everything just pretty much boils down to basic, simple physics and just looking at the holistic approach to anything. So yeah, so if anyone has any more questions, that I'm not answering, go out there and find it yourself, and you can definitely get to the bottom of it.
I like that. Just like, you know what? If I didn't answer, I'll go figure it out yourself. I like that. We should do that more, Jeff. Like, I don't have the answers. Go figure it out, dude. We're not. Yeah, I'm gonna use that method moving forward. I think that's all I have. Landon, do you have any questions about if you ever have any questions about live shows? That's Jack and I's expertise. So we're here for you. Yeah, no, for sure. Hit us up because we're totally experts in that business. But thank you so much for doing this, Landon.
Guys,
seriously,
my pleasure.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was a ball.
Of course.
Do you have anything you want to plug for the people watching?
Yeah, let people know. Anything?
Yeah, definitely get excited about space. We're going back to the moon to stay. And the only reason that it's possible is from the interest in the public. So if you're excited about space, make it heard. Start posting about it, start retweeting and everything, making Instagram stories. Just get excited about it, because more and more that people see, the more funding that the space program gets and the further that we can get quicker. Yeah, so get excited about it, because everything we're doing is for you.
Hell yeah. Landon, you're welcome in my hot tub any day. Any day. When you get back from your space travel, you come down, there'll be a beer and a hot tub waiting for you.
Yeah.
The second you land.
I'll get you a ticket on one of my rockets.
Perfect. That's a fair trade, I think.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, sweet. Well, thanks again, Landon. We appreciate it. And thanks for watching, everyone who's watching at home. We love you guys.